wiser feller than myself once said, sometimes you eat the turd sandwich, sometimes the turd sandwich, well, it eats you.
Man, I'm so glad for the length of that video because as soon as it started playing, I had like burped, and it was like a at least 5-second burp.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm often grateful for how long that thing goes too. Because a lot of times, like, I've just started eating when we start recording. It gives me time to like figure out, okay, where's a good place to chew so I'm not directly chewing into the microphone.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that I try to be very conscious of because I hate when I can hear people chewing.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
So I don't want to like inflict that on anyone who might have similar audio issues that I have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I have something that I want to say. I got something mean to say.
Alrighty.
So in corporate America's never-ending quest to suck the soul and personality out of every single product they produce,
Yes, that's what they do.
they have finally changed the shape of A&W bottles.
What's the shape now?
It's the same shape 7-Up uses for 7-Up and RC. Just generic bottle shapes, very similar to what Pepsi's doing right now in terms of shape, which makes sense because I think they're both distributed by Buffalo Rock.
Is this the plastic bottles or the glass?
The plastic bottles.
Plastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The bottle just looks like one of those weird sized Dr. Pepper bottles.
Yep, it does.
It's boring.
That's just another thing to fuel my undying wrath when my dark harvest begins, I guess.
That's so stupid. Because like the bottle, like, one, obviously your product, the taste of it sets it apart, but the bottle also sets it apart in terms of like look on the shelf.
Yep.
But if it looks like all the other bottles, it's like, why? Like,
Yeah.
why are you wanting your bottle to be the exact same bottle as your competitor?
A&W was one of the last truly distinct bottle shapes for their plastic bottles. They had a classically shaped bottle.
That's so dumb. Yeah, now it's like, oh, you could just pass it up because it looks like every other bottle. Now, if you're like a big A&W fan, obviously you won't. But if you're if you're just someone just perusing through the soda aisle,
yep,
and you're just like, I just want to pick up something new. Well, it might not be A&W because like sometimes the way the uniqueness of the bottle or the logo or whatever like stands out and pops out to people.
Yep. Yeah, now they're just gonna pass it up like, that's just it's just another bottle full of brown stuff that looks like my pee. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
That's why need to see someone about that.
Yeah, it's like, why is your pee that dark? Are you drinking enough water? I drink water all the time, almost exclusively, because the soda doesn't have any interesting bottle shapes anymore. You need to see a doctor. You need to go to a doctor. Your pee should not look like that.
Yeah, that'd be very, very bad.
It's just as dark and frothy as my pee. And viscous.
It's very bad, but I think if it was like Dr. Pepper colored, that'd be even worse.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
I think the worst.
Obviously, there is a medical thing with this, but I would be thinking like, I've got like some alien inside of me. Like, what is this?
The worst pee colors would be any of the Mountain Dew colors.
Oh, true, yeah. Yeah, I'd have like neon yellow pee. It's like, oh my goodness.
Have I been irradiated?
Oh, there's like steam coming off of it as it's going into the toilet.
Hey, if it's cold enough outside, steam will just come off your pee.
No, but this is like that chemical gas steam.
No, okay. Because I was gonna say I have had steaming peas before. That was in Wisconsin, but I've had them.
This is like the chemical steam that comes off of like ooze.
This is something that comes off of like acid as it starts eating through concrete.
Oh gosh. Well, A&W, people are still going to buy your stuff, but
well, yeah, I'm drinking one right now.
Yeah, might be slightly less just because this minimalist approach to everything.
Dr. Pepper 7-Up, you goofed up.
Yeah, got it in bottles. Got it in the way McDonald's look nowadays.
Yep.
Which I'm 50-50 on that. Ultimately, I do like the old way of McDonald's, the way it looks. Now it's like, ultimately, I'm not a giant fan of it, but it almost looks slightly classier than what it is.
Yep.
But yeah.
And speaking of McDonald's, that's another thing. Over the past week, I did go to McDonald's again since our last episode. And I decided to try the McDonald's sauce.
I did too. Yeah, sometime the past week as well, I went and I got the McDonald's sauce.
So what did you think?
I'm not a big fan of it. However, I also got honey mustard sauce, and I combined the two.
Okay.
It's actually pretty good. If you combine honey mustard and McDonald's sauce.
I should have gotten an alternate sauce to switch to. Because all I asked for was the McDonald's sauce when I was at the drive-thru. So that's obviously all I got. So yeah, I should have asked for a second sauce so that I could switch to it after I tried the McDonald's. But I mean, I ate a whole thing of it, and I'm keeping the other one because they gave me two, so I'm keeping the other thing. Yeah. Also, I don't eat chicken McNuggets very often. Pretty bland, pretty bland chicken nugget.
It's because my taste buds have changed, or like things were just so much better as a child, whatever it may be. But I remember them tasting a lot better when I was a kid. Because like you, I don't normally order McNuggets, but I ordered them for this. And you need a sauce for them.
Yeah. You can't really eat McDonald's nuggets without a sauce.
Yeah, and that's what's weird. Like the French fries, you could eat the French fries without a sauce.
Oftentimes, I do that all the time.
That. Yeah. But the nuggets, like you have to have a sauce with them.
Yeah, I tried dunking both the nuggets and the fries in the McDonald's sauce, and I think it went well with both. I mean, obviously it improved the nuggets because there's no other flavor in those,
right.
other than bread and grease. But but yeah, like as far as a nugget goes, I think if I'm going to get a nugget from a place that isn't specifically a chicken place, I think I'd rather get it from Wendy's.
Yeah, I'd agree.
There's a little more flavor in their nuggets, but I would rather get nuggets from a place that does chicken, like KFC.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd rather
Chick-fil-A.
get Chick-fil-A chicken.
I was gonna say Chick-fil-A I think has the best tasting nuggets.
Yeah, when it comes to nuggets, Chick-fil-A is the top. Chicken sandwiches, however, even though it's chicken and it's Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A is not even like top 5 chicken sandwiches for me. Their chicken sandwich is okay.
You see, I usually get strips when I go to chicken places, and I really like Zaxby's. I've really discovered I think my new favorite chicken strip, even though I don't go there very often, is Fusakli's. They've got real good chicken strips.
Fusakli's is good. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I think it was Fusakli's. Like the first time I went, everyone was like praising the tea, even though it's like, hey, this is the chicken place, praise the chicken type thing. But everyone was like praising the tea, where it's like it's got really good sweet tea, and I got it. It is good, but it's like, I feel that's like the only. Like, is it just this and McDonald's? Is this the only sweet tea you've ever drinking? Like, it is good. But like, I wouldn't. I when talking about Fusaklis, I wouldn't be like, "Hey, you have to go to try the tea." That's not what I would do.
No, especially because what if it's someone who doesn't like tea?
True, yeah. You
Because
just
I
completely
don't
turned
drink
them off
tea.
from the place.
I don't
Yeah.
drink any tea at all.
Yeah, I hate it. When I'm home, I have like switched the past year or two where I drink unsweet tea, which sucks, but I've gotten used to it. But yeah, if I'm out, I'll treat myself. I'll get some sweet tea.
Yeah, I'm just not a tea guy.
Yeah, I I think that's one of those things where it's like, at least with sweet tea, you kind of have to grow up with it. I don't know if someone can just like in the middle of their life get into
Acquire the
tea.
taste.
Yeah, yeah. Unless it's like that's all that is available to drink in this area or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so listener, don't go to Fusakli's for the tea. It's good.
For the chicken.
But yeah, go for the chicken. The chicken's good.
The honey mustard sauce is very good. Honey mustard is usually my go-to. Like if I'm trying a new chicken place, that I've never like been to before, and they've got a honey mustard sauce for dipping, that's my go-to. Like, because that's like, I feel like honey mustard is the closest to a default dipping sauce you can get.
Yeah, it's hard to mess up honey mustard sauce. Like, yes, each place might taste a little bit different, but it's hard to mess it up to where it tastes weird. One that like used to be my default sauce when I was a kid, no longer, is barbecue sauce. The reason it's no longer my default is I like barbecue sauce, but some places make it taste weird.
Yes, barbecue sauce doesn't taste good everywhere. Oh, you know what? I've realized there's a better example of like default dipping sauce for like chicken. I don't typically eat chicken with this, but I think ranch actually might be closer to like a default sauce.
Yeah, ranch
it's probably the closest thing to vanilla dipping sauces have.
Yeah, I don't eat them with my chicken tenders or nuggets, but
but
ranch is good for like various stuff. Like if I'm having like taquitos or something, ranch is usually like the go-to sauce.
Something I discovered back when Whataburger was doing their like blue cheese like peppercorn ranch burger, like the bacon burger, was I like ranch on like burgers.
I could see that. Like I could see that being good with everything else that's on it, like the lettuce. And that's the thing, is I'm not a big tomato guy, but if it's on a burger, I'm okay with it because there's a bunch of other stuff on it.
See, I don't get veggies on burgers. So like mine was always, veggie free. So like the ranch with the bacon, the burger, and the blue cheese, pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, like normally, I don't eat like lettuce, tomato, none of that stuff by itself. But on a burger, I'm down for it because I don't know, it's like a good blend. Like it's not, the tomato's not overpowering, the lettuce is not overpowering. Like it's good.
To me, ranch is like one of those flavors where it's like it's not, I don't want to say it's a mild flavor, but it's not a powerful flavor either. So it's like, it bridges the gap between like the stronger elements of like a sandwich and the weaker elements, and like kind of draws out both a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. Now, listener, comment down below. Favorite dipping
we got
sauce.
For comments, don't we? We don't do enough calls to action.
Favorite dipping sauce. Let us know. Like and subscribe. Join our Patreon.
Hit that bell.
And to answer the sauce question, you will have to join the $500 Patreon tier. And then not saying we'll read it on the podcast, but we'll look at your answer for $500.
We'll look at your answer and under our breath go, ew. And then blue cheese dipping sauce on like chicken strips. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say for the most part. Sometimes it can get like overpowering. But for the most part, most places can do it good.
That's why you got to be careful with it.
Yeah. You can't
dip just a little bit in there.
Yeah, you can't dip it as much as like honey mustard or something.
Yeah. Just the tip, just a little bit, just a teeny tiny little bit, just a little bit in that blue cheese.
Yeah. And I don't get it all the time, but another decent default, in terms of what I mean by default, is like it tastes almost exactly the same wherever you go, is buffalo sauce. Like a buffalo sauce, most of the time it'll taste almost exactly the same. So
I am not a buffalo guy.
I don't get it all the time.
Yeah.
Part of it is like I like spicy stuff.
Yeah.
But it depends on whatever I'm eating. If what I'm eating, like, not saying if what I'm eating has some spice to it, or I know like, ooh, like I don't have bad acid reflux, but this is definitely going to hit me. And then I'm also doing buffalo sauce, then it's like, oh no, this is going to be horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's default in the sense that like wherever you go, it's going to taste about the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to screw up buffalo sauce.
Yeah. What I've learned, the one that can be screwed up is barbecue sauce. That one can definitely be screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
But
all right, Brandon.
Yes.
Enough of the Dismay Culinary Podcast.
Yes.
It's time for Dismay Comics.
Yes.
Where you're Brandon and I'm Teo, and this is where we talk about stuff.
Yes, we talk about stuff. Do you want to get into the Akira Toriyama thing first, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with that.
Okay.
So, for anyone who is unaware or unfamiliar, Akira Toriyama is the name of probably the most influential manga author who ever lived. Yeah. Other than maybe like Osamu Tezuka, but he was like the first one. So that's like that was just kind of a matter of someone had to do it first. So as far as like influence beyond that goes, Akira Toriyama definitely takes the top spot. He is the creator of classic comedy series Dr. Slump, adventure series that I haven't read called Sandland, but I do want to read it.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's a funny adventure book.
Yeah, but he's probably best known for his worldwide sensational creation Dragon Ball, which I know I've talked a lot of. I've goofed on Dragon Ball a lot in the past. It is a series that I enjoy and I do respect it. I like making Dragon Ball fans mad because I don't enjoy or respect them. But but Akira Toriyama as a creator is someone that I've always held a great deal of respect for. On March 1st of 2024, which is this year, he passed away of, I believe it was a subdural hematoma.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, it actually affected me more than I thought it would to learn that like Akira Toriyama passed away, because he's never been my favorite manga author. I've always like recognized his influence and his importance, but like, you know, but yeah, for some reason this one is just like this one impacted me in a way I didn't think it would.
Oh yeah. It definitely impacted me. Like something that I'm gonna have to do eventually is like, my brother isn't really on the internet that much, but the reason I bring him up is we grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, like a lot of people. Like I think most people, even if they're not in anime, I should at least say most like little boys or teenage boys, even if they weren't into anime, and even if they're not into anime now, they likely watch Dragon Ball Z. Like that's how wild the impact it had. Is like, you don't even have to be an anime fan, but you likely watch Dragon Ball Z.
And even if you haven't watched Dragon Ball Z, you've felt its
of
influence. You know of it, and
yeah.
you felt its influence in something that you do enjoy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, we watched Dragon Ball Z a ton to where like overall I think I know more about like the behind the scenes stuff, and like I know about like Dragon Ball Z and the story and stuff like that. But when it comes to fandom, I would probably say my brother's a bigger fan than I am. And I don't know if he knows that Akira Toriyama has passed yet. So
Oh no.
eventually I'm gonna have to break that news. But yeah.
But yeah, I believe it was March 1st when he passed.
Yeah, it was March 1st in the States. We didn't really find out till like 4 to 6 days later.
Yeah, it took a while to hit the US. But yeah, he was 68 years old.
Yeah, which isn't that old. Like,
no,
it really isn't.
No, that's not even 70.
Yeah. I mean, like you think about the average life expectancy nowadays, I think for men, it's somewhere, it's like 73 or 75, something like that.
Yeah. But again, if you ever see a picture of him, the man smoked like a chimney.
Yeah.
Probably due heavily to the stress of being a manga author.
Oh yeah.
A group of people in Japan who are famously worked to death.
Yeah, and it wasn't till like the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years where he finally like things are starting to change a little bit with manga and the workload to where he finally was able to be like, hey, how about every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And then eventually he was able to make it to how about once a month?
Yeah. Yeah, so he's definitely someone who will be sorely missed because he was and the thing is like he wasn't done, you know. There were still things he was working on, things he was excited to put out into the world.
Yeah.
So that's what gets to me, is that like he doesn't get to see the impact of what he was still doing is going to have.
Yeah.
And that's probably why this one affects me a bit more than other like comic book creator deaths have over the past few years, because like I know that he didn't believe he was finished.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's more than just like, obviously not finished with Dragon Ball, like that was still going on, but also I'm sure like other, maybe not as big or as long as Dragon Ball, but like I'm sure he had other things where it's like, hey, I'd like to do another thing like Sandland, where it's like
just a short
1 to 3 volumes basically.
Yeah, so just a quick new story. Yeah, so there was a very touching obituary put out by Eiichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece, who I believe became, I don't know if they were close, but I know that he had a very friendly professional relationship with Toriyama, who is his favorite manga author, because Eiichiro Oda's favorite manga is famously Dragon Ball. As well as the creator of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, he also was very heavily influenced by Dragon Ball. But yeah, it's just sad, and it's a big loss, not just for the Japanese comic book industry, but I think for the global comic book industry and anime as well.
This is definitely an international thing where it's like, like Dragon Ball had an impact on every culture, just about like it wasn't just a Japanese thing, it wasn't just a United States thing, like it was / is a phenomenon, like it's just, it's so big.
And I've been seeing a lot of like really touching fan art online, memorializing him and commemorating him after he passed. Like there's one that I really like where it's you know that image of Goku with the angel wings and the halo like flying away and like waving goodbye.
Yeah.
Someone did some art of Toriyama doing that.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. And then there have been a lot of things of like his little like avatar that he drew himself as, because a lot of manga authors come up with like little characters to represent themselves.
Yeah.
And his was like a little robot guy with a gas mask and like a hat, usually smoking a cigarette. And
Yeah.
and so like there's one that I've seen where it's like someone drew little chibi versions of, unfortunately I don't know the name of the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, but he also passed away recently.
Oh yeah.
And Kentaro Miura, the creator of Berserk.
Yeah.
And there's this just little chibi versions of them being like, oh, it's an honor we get the chance to spar with a legend. And and like they're like holding their signature weapons. Like the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh's got a dual disc, and Miura's got like the giant sword that I forget the name of from Berserk.
Yeah.
And then like there's a little Toriyama gas mask guy with like a key aura around him, and he's like, don't sell yourselves short, I'm surrounded by legends. And it's like, it's just this cute little thing.
Yeah, that's sweet.
But yeah, so the fan community has, you know, obviously very quickly accepted that, you know, this is the reality, but it's good to see so many people like just having this outpouring of love and respect for a man who affected so many people.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like seeing online is like the stories of people, like whether it's comic creators, manga creators, or just like just everyday people, like the stories that they had, whether it was like similar to mine, where it's like, oh, like I remember growing up and watching it with my siblings and then playing the video games or whatever, like stories like that, or just like I mean, some other stories I hear where it's like, yeah, we didn't really have much, but like I remember this, I forgot who said this, but like he lived in New York and they didn't have much, but they'd walk by like one of those hobby shops at the time and like walk by the window, and the window is just like littered with like the DBZ figures, like the DBZ character figures. And like him and his siblings just always wanting to go into that shop, and eventually they did, but always wanted to go into that shop just because of like the epicness of like the figures in the window and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I like hearing the stories that people have of this sort of stuff, not just with like Akira Toriyama, but like anytime there's a creator or person that has an impact in someone's life, I like hearing their personal stories to how it affects them.
Yeah. So I guess all this is to say, you know, a posthumous thank you to Akira Toriyama for, you know, what he built.
Oh yeah.
We can all be happy knowing he's chilling with King Kai right now.
Yeah. He's training right now and pissing King Kai off.
Yeah.
Because he's destroying his little planet. But yeah, if you haven't already, listener, go read Dragon Ball the manga, go watch the anime, whatever it may be. Play the video games. The video games are fun. Like there's a bunch of them, but
yeah,
like you can look up to see what are the good ones.
Yeah. There's also video games that Toriyama worked directly on. He was the character and monster designer for, I think, both Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you want to see his art in some pretty good RPGs, those are good options too.
Oh yeah.
Read Dr. Slump. I've not read Dr. Slump. Read Sandland. I've not read Sandland.
Sandland's good.
Yeah. Just go consume as much of Toriyama's work as you can.
Or at least, at the very least, just like
there's officially a finite amount of it.
Yeah. at the very least, just like Google his artwork and stuff, because it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
his
yeah, he was an
character
incredible
designs,
artist.
as well as like not only his character designs, but like just his architecture designs, as well as like one of his like his peaks. Like he's good at everything, but something that was very unique was like his vehicle designs were just really interesting.
I love his vehicle and prop designs in his work.
Yeah.
He's got a very interesting eye for like sci-fi tech. There's a great sense of whimsy in everything that he made. At least at the beginning. Obviously later Dragon Ball stuff got very like muscly and rigid. But early Dragon Ball stuff, which a lot of that in terms of the world design carries over into later Dragon Ball, obviously. But like there's just a great sense of whimsy. And also like as far as the storytelling goes, he's a pretty good comedian. I will say his older stuff is a little pervy and probably kind of problematic by modern standards. But I personally find Toriyama's comedy to be quite funny. So I'm okay with it. But yeah, I think he's a great comedian. He was an incredible action choreographer.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single fight scene he ever drew that you could call boring in any way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even back in early Dragon Ball, when the fight scenes themselves were mostly jokes, they were still really interesting to read.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I know I bring this one up a lot, but one of my favorite things from early Dragon Ball is the panel where Goku smacks Yamcha up into the border of the panel and he goes ricocheting back down to the dirt. Oh, I recently, for Dragon Ball, I did pass the 4th milestone for that one on my manga study. And they started breaking the 4th wall far more overtly in that stretch.
Oh, okay.
Like directly referencing Dr. Slump and talking about the fact that they're in a comic book.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. I'm done being sad.
Last segment. Teo has hit another milestone in the manga study.
So come aboard and read along if you feel like it. I'm still workshopping a theme song. All right, let me go in my notes real quick. Okay, manga study. There we go. All right, so this is the 3rd milestone, everybody. That means that I have read the 11th to 15th chapters of every series that I'm reading except for Jujutsu Kaisen. That one I read the 7th to 11th chapters, because Jujutsu Kaisen is always going to be 4 chapters behind everything else because I read 0 first.
Yeah.
So this is also the last manga study that will include JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in the lineup, because I figured may as well read the notes off for that one since I already wrote them down.
Right.
But going forward, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is being replaced by Mashle, Muscles, and Magic, which I will be reading all 3 milestones for today once I get to the Mashle section, because I wasn't reading it before, so I had to get through all the first 15 chapters.
Yeah, he had to play catch up on that one.
Yep. So, and for anyone who is wondering what the heck is going on, what am I talking about? I have been conducting a manga study where I've been reading 20 titles published by Shonen Jump magazine on the Shonen Jump app. And I've organized them according to like oldest to newest, where I read the oldest title on the list first, 5 chapters at a time, and then run through the cycle as each series gets younger and younger. So yeah, and every 5 chapters I record my notes and thoughts on each series, and this is done to like compare and contrast their pacing, the influences the older ones have on the more recent ones, and how that has like trickled down to over time really refine what shonen manga looks like in the modern era. There is only one title on my list, even with the swap out from JoJo to Mashal. There's still only one title on my list that, as of this recording, has yet to receive an anime adaptation, and that's Kaiju number 8. But if I remember correctly, the first episode of that one's anime is supposed to drop at the end of the month. So
okay,
it's well on the way. I just wanted to put it on the record. I'm cooler than everybody because I read one of these before the anime adaptation started. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I was reading My Hero before the anime started, but
yeah.
But this time around, since I started rereading it, obviously the anime is like 7 years on.
yeah.
So yeah. All right, here we go. Third milestone, chapters 11 to 15 of almost everything. Here we go. So, Dragon Ball, chapters 11 to 15. Very poignant today. Toriyama continues his trend of expanding on group dynamics by introducing new characters. Ox King and Chi-Chi are fun new additions that appear as guests in these chapters, but I know they'll come around as series regulars later. Yamcha and Puar take a back seat in this stretch to make room for the new additions, as well as the reintroduction of Master Roshi. The comedy continues to hit with Toriyama's signature weird, pervy style. I have also begun to notice that this first arc seems to take the story in phases of 5 chapters at a time, establishing an ideal rhythm for this study.
Okay.
Yeah, Dragon Ball just continues to... It keeps a pretty steady pace, and it continues to be good for this stretch.
That's good.
All right, next up. Here's the one. Saint Seiya, chapters 11 to 15. The narrative improves drastically in this stretch. The series has finally found something to focus on. The characters are much better defined and give a greater sense of their personalities. Unfortunately, the characters all behave identically, with all the heroes being generically heroic and villains being generically villainous. The battles are still just as bland as before, and the art is still blocky and uninteresting. Baby steps, I suppose. Yeah, for that stretch, Saint Seiya, at least the main characters have personalities now. Unfortunately, it's all the same personality.
Now, I think you may have mentioned this before. If you... Is there a stopping point if there's one manga that like you go this many chapters and it's still like, meh, do you keep going with it, or is there a stopping point in terms of chapters?
No, I am going to read all of these to their conclusion.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to learn from them, and
yeah.
I want to learn from the bad ones as well as the good ones.
Yeah.
And I can say I've gotten through the chapters for the, or at least a decent chunk of the chapters for the 4th milestone for Saint Seiya. It's picking up tension, at least with the narrative. Battles are still boiling down to, I throw a big punch, well, I throw a bigger punch. You know, it's...
Oh, yeah.
It's still really coming down to that sort of fight choreography of, well, I hit you with my invincible attack, and well, I blocked you with my invincible shield. Just kids on the playground saying, like, I do, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I have Infinity Force Field. Well, I have Force Field. I have Force Field Attacker that destroys Infinity Force Fields. Well, I knew you were going to do that, so I have the Infinity Force Field Blocker that blocks those type of attackers. It's just it's really like thinking about that childhood way of playing on the recess. It's like an early stage of improv.
Kind of, yeah. Who can come up with the biggest, most ridiculous thing to win the imaginary superpower fight?
Yeah.
So yeah, Saint Seiya is really operating on that level of fight choreography still, and Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, the arc that I've been in for Saint Seiya that's been going for a while is taking place mostly in a cave. And I feel like the reason that is that they wouldn't have to draw that many backgrounds.
Yeah.
Because it's either stark white or completely inked in black for the backgrounds, with a couple of like rock ridges here and there to remind you that they're in a cave.
I thought they were in like some sort of abyss, but okay,
Yeah.
There we go.
And then like every once in a while when they're activating their super cool powers, there's like a highly detailed rendering of some sort of mythical beast, like a dragon or a phoenix or something related to their constellations. But
I gotcha.
But yeah, other than that, it's just characters on the page using superpowers, and no matter what power they use, the guy they're hitting falls over every time, but then like gets back up and is like, that didn't faze me at all. Now time for my attack. And it's like, why did you fall over that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Saint Seiya it's getting to me a little bit. It's a fun experience having this kind of breakdown, reading something, because it's been a really long time since I've put myself through something like this.
Yeah.
So it's just it's nice to feel something again, I guess. So anyway, moving on. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood, chapters 11 to 15. And this is going to be the last JoJo one for this manga study, unfortunately. Anyone who's interested, go read it yourself. I intend to do so once I'm finished with this manga study. But yeah, right now I can't continue with it because Shonen Jump doesn't have JoJo Part 2 available on their app. They don't even have it available for purchase as far as I saw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just might not have looked thoroughly enough, but as far as I could see, they don't even have like the volumes available to buy on the app. So, which is weird. Why Part 2?
Yeah.
They've got 1 and 3 through 6 available. They're still putting out like old chapters of 6, like weekly, because I think they're still trying to catch up on the app to where it is now.
Yeah.
Because I think they're on like part 8 or 9 or maybe even 10 at this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sigh. Anyway, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood, chapters 11 to 15. This stretch really pulls the rug out with a sudden genre shift. What started with 10 chapters of slow-burning Victorian period drama with hints of supernatural mystery transforms into full-on action horror for 5 straight chapters. The climactic showdown between Jonathan and Dio feels like the ending of the first movie in a trilogy, marking this as a major turning point in the storyline. The action choreography is some of the most creative I've seen in the study to this point, truly cementing JoJo as one of Jump's best classics so far.
Dang.
Yeah. So you can see why I'm a little sad that I got to stop for now.
Yeah. And you got to keep going with that last one.
With Saint Seiya? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Saint Seiya, as far as I've seen, is the shortest title on the list.
Okay.
In terms of chapter number, page count, it probably makes up for it.
Yeah.
Because pages range between like 37 to like 52 pages per chapter sometimes. Gosh. Yeah, like the really big ones are like 52 pages long. It's like, why would you do that to me?
Yeah. And you said it can be kind of wordy sometimes, right?
It can be very wordy.
Yeah.
They're always talking because they're always talking about how strong and heroic they are.
Yeah.
And what they had to endure to get here. And, you know, and like they keep, it's doing that thing where right off the bat, I got to complain about Saint Seiya a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's doing that thing where right off the bat, very first arc, very first major conflict is like the most life-threatening thing you can imagine.
Right.
It's like the characters are on death's door at the end of pretty much every chapter. How? And like a couple of them have cheated death a couple times already now.
Yeah.
One of them they've literally commented on the fact that one of these characters has been at death's door twice and come back. So how am I supposed, like, when this ends, when this arc is over, assuming that like this is just the first conflict in the series and isn't like the beginning of just one solid ongoing 111 chapter saga, which, God, I can't imagine them trying to keep up this level of tension for the next 100 chapters. But if this is just the first arc in a longer series, how am I supposed to buy into anything that happens after this?
Yeah.
When you have when you have fake out Death's Me with more than one character already, and put them up against like the most threatening guy you possibly could have right off the bat, and like every single thing these characters do is like the most powerful thing they're capable of in the moment until they come up with something more powerful in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
How am I like when this one's done, how am I supposed to buy into the next arc?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not usually one of those guys who's concerned with power scaling. And this isn't really about the power scaling. This is about the stakes. How am I supposed to care about the stakes in the future if I don't believe any of it matters now?
Yeah, that's true.
Because, again, I don't think death is the only kind of stake in a story. But Saint Seiya has established death as the only kind of stake that matters and has repeatedly teased it over and over. Like, Saint Seiya has pretty much blatantly looked into the camera and said, like, life and death, that's the only kind of struggle in this story. Buckle up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of, like, if I get this thing, I can do this bad thing that won't kill everybody, but it'll be bad. No, if I get this thing, I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to kill all of you. And that's it. Like, that that is the narrative tension. Bad guy gets the thing he wants, all the main characters die. Those are the stakes. So, like, again, like Saint Seiya, it came out in a time when there wasn't a whole lot else. All right, sorry. It's just Dragon Ball and JoJo were coming out at the same time and had so much more going for them.
Right.
So you know what? Even though it went for 111 chapters, maybe there's a reason Saint Seiya doesn't have any like sequels or spin-offs, or like, sure, it gets adaptations here and there and it's still generally recognized like culturally, but I don't see Saint Seiya getting a whole lot of like actual like love from people. I've never heard anybody say like, I love Saint Seiya. I've heard people say like, I've heard of Saint Seiya, or Saint Seiya, what is that? So, but I chose it because I knew it's an influential one. And it's from Jump's classic era, like Dragon Ball and JoJo.
Yeah.
Like the mid to late 80s. So I like, and it's setting an example for me. It's showing me a lot of things I don't want to do in storytelling. I mean, these are all things I already knew I shouldn't do in storytelling, but like, it's really reinforcing why that's the case.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll move on from Saint Seiya now, everybody. That one. It's a fun read. This is a fun frustration. This is not. I'm not like genuinely upset about this. It's this is don't worry, everybody. This is fun for me. I promise. Maybe just if for anyone who's reading along with me, if you're pickier about how you spend your time and like what kind of entertainment you consume, maybe skip Saint Seiya. If you're not that picky, read along with me. Understand why I am whining about this one so much. All right, next up. Yu Yu Hakusho, chapters 11 to 15. the perfect salve for Saint Seiya fatigue. This series is maintaining a steady pace with its episodic structure, with occasional dips into the ongoing storyline. It's clear that Togashi didn't really intend for this series to turn into another shonen action manga, and his talent for contained stories almost makes me wish it stayed this way for its entire run. Either way, still my favorite classic series in Jump's catalog, and it flows nicely now that it's truly settled into a rhythm.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho, chef's kiss. Still great. Probably going to be that way all the way through.
Yeah.
I know Togashi himself got tired of it towards the end and just wanted to finish it, but for me, it's good. I like it.
Nice.
All right. One Piece, chapters 11 to 15. This stretch really settles into One Piece's overall rhythm that will become prevalent in the future. It continues on from the arc that began in the last stretch, and the climactic battle is only just getting rolling by the end of chapter 15. This is only the slightest hint of the arc length that can be expected later in the series. Excuse me. While this may be briskly paced compared to later storylines, it is still a good deal longer than the arcs of other series in this study, rivaled only by Saint Seiya so far, given that series is still technically in its first major arc that began in chapter 1. Yeah, Saint Seiya, nearly 20 chapters in, is still technically on the first arc.
Oh, wow.
But then again, so is Dragon Ball, when I really think about it. Like, 20 chapters in, they've only just done the Panty Wish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so... But at least Dragon Ball's wrapping up 20 chapters in. Saint Seiya doesn't seem like it's drawing its first arc to a real conclusion anytime soon.
Yeah.
Which again gives me a little bit of concern that it might just be a 111 chapter fight.
Oh gosh.
I couldn't possibly imagine. Like, okay, I say that now, knowing what's to come in the future for One Piece, but like, One Piece built up to that.
Right.
Anyway. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on One Piece, that it's, it's settling into a rhythm, just like this is around the time when most series that are going to be around for the long haul start settling in and kind of establishing their pace and their rhythm.
Yeah.
But yeah, with One Piece though, Luffy and Buggy the Clown haven't even like properly traded blows yet.
Oh dang.
Yeah, with Buggy being like the second major villain that Luffy fights.
Right.
The first one being Axe-Hand Morgan. Though Axe-Hand Morgan doesn't pop up again later in the series too much. Buggy sticks around for a while, though. Buggy's a big deal in the current chapters.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Yeah, he really failed upward into his position, but, Because with current One Piece, spoilers for One Piece, everybody, but whatever, it's 1,000 chapters long, you don't care. Actually, 1,100 chapters, that's, anyway, whatever. Luffy and Buggy both currently hold the rank of Pirate Emperor.
Okay.
They are each one of the 4 Pirate Emperors. At the beginning of the series, the 4 Pirate Emperors are Red-Haired Shanks, Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom. But over the course of the series, Whitebeard, again, spoilers for One Piece, everybody. Over the course of the series, Whitebeard dies, and Big Mom and Kaido both get dethroned from like their positions.
Okay.
And so that leaves 3 open spaces. Well, Blackbeard took Whitebeard's place when Whitebeard died, because Blackbeard is the one who killed him. And then for Big Mom and Kaido, they got knocked out of their spot at the same time, which left spaces open for Luffy and Buggy to kind of become the new 2 Pirate Emperors. Luffy because he's genuinely that powerful. Buggy because everybody thinks he's that powerful. So, yeah. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, cool. Moving on. All right, Hunter x Hunter, chapters 11 to 15. This stretch goes a long way to establish the various roles hunters can play in the setting, and also presents the first hints at the power ceiling for the series. Chairman Netero makes an interesting early entry for Master Roshi stand-in, and the game he plays with Gon and Killua demonstrates the slightly more grounded power scaling in this series relative to its contemporaries. The boys never had a chance of winning the game against the old man, but they still tripped him up a couple times. These chapters also pull back the curtain on Killua's character a bit more, setting up the main thrust of his arc and reliance on Gon for support. Hunter x Hunter continues to be one of the higher quality titles in the study as expected.
Nice.
Yeah, because what happens in this stretch of chapters is there's a point where the two main characters, Gon and Killua, are challenged to a ball game by the old man Netero. And the only objective is to get the ball away from Netero. And, Gon and Killua, there's two of them, right? So it should be easy.
Yeah.
And he's an old man. Well, it's not that easy. He manages to keep them away for hours. They play this game for hours. And all the while, this is never explicitly mentioned until Gon brings it up. Well, no, Gon and Killua both kind of bring it up because they notice throughout the entire game, Netero never once uses his right hand or left leg. He stands on only his right leg, and he stands on only his right leg and holds the ball with only his left hand for the entire game, and they still can't get it away from him.
Dang.
So Killua eventually gives up. Killua's like, it's impossible. I'm done. I'm going away. But Gon wants to keep it going because he's like, we still got a little bit of time. And Gon's like, I want to see if I can get you to use your right hand. Like, that's Gon's goal. Like, Gon, upon learning that the actual victory of the game is impossible, sets his own smaller victory. Okay. Because that's like the nature of him as a character. He's like, well, if I can't win the whole thing, I'll win some of it.
Yeah.
And by the end, Gon by himself does trip Netero up enough to get him to use his right hand to like press against the floor and keep his balance.
Oh, okay.
And so and like Netero doesn't even notice that until like time runs out on their little game and Gon fails to get it, but still smiles and laughs because he's like, I did it. I got you to use your right hand. And Netero's like, well, yeah, I guess you did. So like when Killua gets frustrated with an impossible situation, Gon just finds a new, smaller way to win.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a pessimist and an optimist, and the two of them kind of need each other to stay grounded.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which that aspect of their relationship hasn't really come in yet, like the idea that they really need each other, but it will come in later because I've watched the anime a good ways in, so I know what their relationship is like later on. But yeah, with these chapters, it's planting those seeds of like the difference in Gon and Killua's personalities and like why they would need each other. Because if Gon doesn't have Killua to bring him down, he will continue throwing himself headlong into situations he's not ready for and eventually die.
Yeah.
And if Killua doesn't have Gon to bring him up, he'll just keep giving up over and over and never really try at anything that he doesn't know for certain he can accomplish.
Yeah.
So the two of them need each other because with Gon, Killua can accomplish things, and with Killua, Gon can avoid dying. So yeah, it's a fun dynamic. I really like the focus on I like that Hunter x Hunter isn't a one-man show like a lot of shonen series tend to turn into. where like
yeah.
all the sidekick characters get their own little fights here and there, but you're really here for like the headliner guy.
Yeah, all the
like,
sides get put to the background eventually.
Yeah, like no, Hunter x Hunter is very much like everyone here has the gravitas as a character and like the intrigue to be the headliner of their own fight, their own arc, and they often need each other to accomplish their goals.
That's good.
Yeah, like I've said before, Yoshihiro Togashi, probably the greatest manga author to ever live. Alrighty. Next up, Naruto, chapters 11 to 15. These chapters are where Naruto really starts to kick as an action series. With the introduction of its first arc villain, Zabuza, the series has the opportunity to demonstrate exactly how intricately planned its fights can be, with ridiculous off-the-wall tactics and power combinations being put on display, all drawing from established premises and abilities that were explained in previous chapters. What felt like a slow burn build-up for the first 10 chapters really paid off with Kakashi and Zabuza's first dynamic showdown.
Nice.
Yeah, like the tactics in Naruto as a series are nuts. Like with the power system and like all the weapons they can use. It's great to see it all come together after essentially spending 10 chapters explaining how it works in the first place.
Yeah.
Because the fight between Kakashi and Zabuza lasts almost this entire 5-chapter stretch. So like it really feels like a payoff.
That's good.
Alrighty, next one. Claymore, chapters 11 to 15. This series continues a steady pace of high-quality storytelling and character writing. After the conclusion of the first hunting arc, the series abruptly shifts to what I assume is a prequel arc detailing Claire's origins through the perspective of her mentor, Teresa. The relationship between these two is touching and sincere, continuing Claymore's themes of finding joy and comfort in those you love when the world seems to rob you of purpose. Still a standout series so far. That's really what I'm noticing Claymore seems to be about, is people stuck in a world that won't really let them live for anything, so they live for each other.
Okay.
Alrighty, next up, Bleach, chapters 11 to 15. The series continues introducing new characters and concepts to round out its world. However, it has already begun indulging in one bad habit which frustrated me when watching the anime adaptation. Bleach introduces nearly every new side character with equal weight, as if they are all important, giving the sense that the series will have a deep well of supporting characters to enhance the story later. While that is true, most of the characters introduced in this stretch are background extras with names who simply receive an abundance of page space early on. This doesn't bode well, as my main gripe with Bleach's anime is that it dedicates too much time to establish an expanded cast that largely goes on to do nothing meaningful. Other than that, some pretty important world building is done here, and genuinely important characters like Kisuke Urahara and Kon receive their first appearances in these chapters. Bleach is starting to do that thing that it did in the anime that I didn't like, where every single teeny tiny little extra side character in Ichigo's high school. The main character, Bleach. Every single side character in Ichigo's high school is introduced with a full name and personality and like a core joke to their character, and like then none of them do anything later. It's like you aren't supposed to introduce your extras that way.
Yeah.
That's how you introduce characters you're actually going to do something important with later. And I'm sure Kubo thought he was going to do something important with a lot of them later, but I don't think he knew what Bleach was going to turn into at this point yet.
Yeah.
To him, I think Bleach was still very much just a samurai-flavored Yu Yu Hakusho.
Right.
So yeah. Anyway, next up, Toriko, chapters 11 to 15. This series is keeping a steady pace with engaging battles against terrifying monsters in interesting locations. Toriko feels like such a D&D campaign of a series. The introduction of the character Coco helps to expand on the character dynamics and also serves to expand on the nature of Toriko's power system. It seems the series aims to focus on bizarre biological abnormalities and manipulation as the core of its magic system, a unique approach especially for its time. Because like all of the characters' powers in Toriko so far are rooted in some abnormality in their biology.
Right.
Like the character Coco, he immunized himself to like every poison he could possibly get his hands on, which means his body is so overflowing with poison that he can like secrete it and shoot it. But there's a limit to that because it depends on how much moisture is in his body to eat up.
Right.
And he's at risk of dehydration if he over venomizes, I guess. But he did that specifically so that he could hunt monsters with like really venomous or poisonous natural weapons, and you know, kill them and then cook them up and eat them. Yeah. But yeah, so it's an interesting power system, and like Toriko does a special beam cannon in a it's not actually a special beam cannon per se, but like he needs time to charge it up, so Coco's got to hold a monster off for him. Yeah. And like it cuts back to Toriko, and he's got like this giant beefed up right arm, like way bigger and more muscular than his left arm, and I'm like, that's a little suggestive. And then I almost took a screen cap of it and then sent it to the D&D group, and it was like me on Friday nights. But I'm sorry, you can cut that.
That's all good.
But yeah, and then like he shoots like 5 simultaneous punches with his arm like that, and it explodes the giant centipede thing they were fighting, or giant snake lizard thing. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah,
it was creepy looking. But yeah, so like it was basically a special beam cannon, except Toriko didn't miss. Anywho, next up. Okay, this next one's got a lot to it. Tokyo Ghoul, chapters 11 to 15. I took a lot of notes on this one. All right. The series is really digging into its core conflict with this stretch, while still taking time to carefully assemble a believable setting piece by tiny piece. The introduction of the doves and their cruel treatment of the ghouls serves to contrast the relative innocence of characters like Miss Fueguchi and her daughter Hinami, while also paralleling the behavior of antagonistic ghouls like Nishio and Rize. The story has taken measures to ensure that the reader can empathize with both sides, while also maintaining that each side is also capable of cruelty. Tokyo Ghoul presents a unique moral dilemma concerning the nature of a predatory diet. When both predator and prey are intelligent species, is it morally wrong for the predator to feed even though they have no other choice? Are the prey's acts of self-defense or vengeance justifiable in the face of a predator who cannot live without killing? All of these questions are raised not by the text itself, but by the nature of the story it tells. The first 15 chapters of Ghoul are incredibly meaty, even given their slow pacing. I find myself thinking about this series long after I finish a milestone, far more than I do for any other series on the list.
It's pretty well said.
Yeah, like Tokyo Ghoul is the only one that leaves me thinking a lot about it every time I finish a stretch.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be at work, I'll finish the 5th chapter for the milestone, I'll take my notes, I'll get on my forklift, I'll drive around, and I'll still just be thinking about Tokyo Ghoul. Like, usually I'm thinking, like, my mind starts turning to something else after I finished a stretch of 5 chapters. But with Tokyo Ghoul, I'm just like, dang, man, that just...
Yeah.
And, like, I start, like, really digging into it, like, getting into the themes it's presenting and the story it's telling. Because, like, those questions, like, within those first 15 chapters, it has you thinking about that. Like, is it justifiable for prey to defend itself when both predator and prey are intelligent?
Yeah.
Is it okay for the predator to feed on the prey if they're both intelligent? Like, is either side justified? Is either side like the bad guy? And the answer is really, when you think about it, no.
Right.
Because the ghouls don't have a choice, but the humans still deserve to live.
Right.
It's a really interesting premise and conflict. So yeah, anyway, I got to move on though. Otherwise I'll be talking about Tokyo Ghoul for as long as I talked about Saint Seiya. But for the opposite reason. All right. One Punch Man, chapters 11 to 15. This series is steadily expanding its world, mostly one character at a time. This time around, the series introduces Speed of Sound Sonic as a humorous rival character for Saitama. The series has managed to find a fun rhythm of tightly paced arcs lasting roughly 4 to 5 chapters apiece. OPM has also introduced the premise within its world that there is a hero association, something that will become a major focus moving forward. One Punch Man has officially found its footing and is looking to expand outward into a real shonen narrative with a focus on both humor and action. There's a moment in that stretch of chapters that was really enhanced by the anime. And like the chapter it happens in though for the manga is really good too, because like the manga with this specific chapter, so the character is called Speed of Sound Sonic, right?
Yeah.
And he's like a ninja with super speed. That's his thing.
Right.
So there's like a solid chapter of like double splash pages of him just zooming around Saitama looking for an opening to attack.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Saitama like lifts his fist in the air and he's like, "Look, dude, like I'm busy. Like, are we fighting or what?" And he lifts his fist in the air right as Sonic is coming down to attack him with his leg totally exposed. And in the manga, it's a quick just page of him like, you know, there's like a pow visual effect as Sonic gets hit in the groin. In the anime though, that moment is a slow motion close up shot of his bulge.
Yeah.
Squishing down onto Saitama's fist as he slowly registers the pain.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite moments in any anime ever. But yeah, it's great. But yeah, so One Punch Man is holding it together. That's really all I can say about that one. All right, next up, Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma, chapters 11 to 15. All right. This stretch of chapters finally initiated the manga's primary narrative mechanic, the Shokugeki. This is a cooking competition with set rules that makes the conflict easy to understand for the reader. While it did take a while to get here, I think the series presents the concept of the Shokugeki clearly and in an engaging way. I also enjoy how this series seems to favor normal, everyday foods that the average person can cook and eat, and seems to admonish the idea of high-profile gourmet cuisine as a meaningless luxury, a philosophy that I also hold. As someone who has never found gourmet food appetizing, I can appreciate a series that highlights, air quotes, peasant food and elevates it above gourmet status. I may also be biased in favor of this series because the first arc villain is a dark-skinned tomboy with a pixie cut whose culinary focus is beef, and all of that just appeals to me on a primal level.
Yeah.
I wrote all that in my notes. But yeah, like that first arc villain is like perfectly constructed to be like, what would Teo enjoy looking at for like 3 chapters? Anywho. Next up, My Hero Academia, chapters 11 to 15. The series is hitting its stride as it begins fleshing out the powers and personalities of Izuku's classmates, highlighting how each of them functions in various scenarios based on temperament and ability. With villains finally appearing in the second half of this stretch, My Hero is finally putting its chapters of character building to use by challenging the students with a grueling test that no one was prepared for. So yeah, like My Hero is finally in a position where it's like it's fleshing out Izuku's classmates and their powers and personalities and how those can work together to fight actual villains.
Right.
Like this is where the so like the League of Villains has attacked the school for the first time to try and draw All Might out, and they split up all the students across this training zone that the students had gone to train for like disaster relief.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the anime.
Yeah. So like we get like the first appearances of like Suyu and Minetta's powers, right? And how those work together and all that. So it's interesting, and like how Izuku can use his classmates' powers in his strategies. Because at this point in the series, Izuku doesn't have decent control over his power yet, so he has to use his strategic mind to work around problems while using his own actual power as little as possible.
Right.
Which I think for the early series, that was a really interesting limitation. That like you have a main character with the greatest superpower ever, but he didn't grow up with it, so he doesn't know how to control it. So like he can't use it without rendering himself completely useless, which means he's got to be the strategist.
Yeah.
And he's relying on everybody else's significantly weaker powers because at least they can use theirs more than once.
Yeah.
And later on in the series, there's a lot less of that as he gains more control and develops more powers. But yeah, it's interesting early on. I remember when I was first reading My Hero Academia years ago, I was a little disappointed when I found out that he would be inheriting All Might's powers. Because I was really interested in the idea that he would have to be the Batman in a world of everybody else having powers. Like, I was really interested in the idea that Izuku might have to Batman his way through superhero school.
Yeah.
I like the series as it is anyway. It's good. It's one of my favorites from the modern era. It's just there's still that little bit of me that wonders, like, what could the series have been if it had been about him as a normal human student in a world of superheroes and villains, but he still managed to like make his way through. Oh well, you know, what could have been and all that.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Black Clover, chapters 11 to 15, another one of the really good ones. This series continues to outpace its contemporaries and blazes ahead in terms of world building. This stretch of chapters introduced a rival nation, established the political situation, and expanded on the divide between peasants and nobles in the Clover Kingdom, all while continuing its trend of fast-paced and creatively choreographed fights that utilize each character's unique abilities in interesting ways. This series knows exactly what it wants to do and how to do it. Yeah, Black Clover, like dang, because I know I just went full on Boomhauer on that one, but like Black Clover like knows what it's doing,
right?
Because like its setup, its premise is when you try to explain what it's about to someone, it sounds like the single most generic shonen manga series to ever be conceived. But the thing is, the reason it's so generic is so that it doesn't have to explain anything to you.
Yeah.
And it's so that it can just kind of hit the ground running and keep going without slowing down. And it really works that to its advantage. So yeah, Black Clover equals good, I think. All right, next one. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, chapters 11 to 15. The visuals actually take a dip in this stretch compared to previous chapters. The more detailed shading I noticed last time is absent this time, and facial inconsistency is a problem in both small and large panels. Right now, the series is getting by on the relentlessness of the narrative, not letting the story settle into too much of a lull before engaging with the next phase of conflict. Beyond that, it genuinely feels like it took a step back right when it seemed like it was headed in the right direction. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about Demon Slayer. Like, I noticed a slight uptick in quality last time, but this time it went back down to where it was.
Yeah. What part are you on right now?
Chapters 11 to 15. He's just about to fight the arrow guy with the eyes in his hands and the girl with the 6 arms who kicks the ball around.
Oh, okay.
So he's with the demon doctor lady.
Yeah, he's past Michael Jackson on the street.
Yeah, he's past the point where those people in the alley got struck by a smooth criminal. That's the first time I saw that in the anime. I was in a room full of people who were already fans, and I made that joke to them because Clay was there. Clay is super into Demon Slayer. I think I've gone on record saying that. And he was showing it to everybody, and we were watching it, and there's that point where Muzan kills everybody in that alleyway, and I was like, ooh, they got struck by a smooth criminal. And I don't remember if anybody laughed. But yeah, that's back when I was giving Demon Slayer the benefit of the doubt and trying to actually get into it for the sake of a friend who wanted me to enjoy it. But yeah, now it's it's there.
Yeah.
At least the anime is not ugly.
Yeah.
In fact, the anime is incredibly pretty because Ufotable are the ones animating it, and they did Fate Stay Night. Unlimited Blade Works, and also Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel. Anyway, moving on. Dr. Stone, chapters 11 to 15. The series has finally finished setting up all of the dominoes it needs in place to initiate its actual plot. The conflict has been laid out clearly and with full detail of the stakes and parties involved. Now that Senku has struck out on his own, the entire world is open for him to explore and meet new allies to aid in the battle to come. The series is about to begin a prolonged period of preparation for an explosive climax to its first major saga. When it comes to the art, it maintains its high standard of quality, both in its comedic energy and timing, and its cool factor when selling the impact of important moments. Dr. Stone is one of those ones that's done by a writer-artist duo instead of just one person doing everything.
Oh.
So they got more time to do stuff, I think. Between them. But yeah, the art in Dr. Stone is always awesome because especially when it's trying to sell a comedic moment, the way that the facial expressions are drawn it's weird. You gotta look up Dr. Stone faces at some point.
Yeah.
Like weird Dr. Stone faces because it's just the way those reaction shots hit sometimes is ridiculous. Alrighty, moving on. Jujutsu Kaisen, chapters 7 to 11. This stretch of chapters began casually reintroducing characters from the Zero chapters, forming a solid connection between the two stories. Even the original villain makes his return appearance here with almost no pomp or fanfare about it. I'm not certain how I feel about that method of reincorporating old characters into a new story, but it does feel refreshing since such restraint isn't often shown in sequels like this. Outside of that, the series is holding steady. Not much else to report.
Okay.
Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen. That's a hard title to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is just it's maintaining, it's holding steady.
Okay.
And like I said, it's just kind of casually reintroducing characters from the Zero chapters. Not really giving them a whole lot of fanfare or like an overwhelming amount of focus. The way it reintroduces them makes it feel like they're just the next set of supporting characters to appear in what is otherwise just a normal shonen series.
Right.
The way they're introduced kind of feels like the way the other ninja squads in Naruto are introduced later on after its first arc. So, feels normal. It's one of those things where like you're there, you're reading it, and all of a sudden it's Leonardo pointing at TV screen meme. Leonardo DiCaprio. We're like, hey, I recognize them. So yeah, there's that. All right, next one. Chainsaw Man, chapters 11 to 15. This stretch of chapters really steps it up with creative panel layouts. I love how much the series commits to communicating as much information through the visuals as it can get away with. The characters have some of the most natural looking facial expressions I've seen in a manga so far, and so much about their personalities is communicated through their faces and body language. The series also feels like it's starting to figure out what it's trying to be about as far as its themes go, which I appreciate from an analytical perspective. All right, because I know you're wondering, they made it to the Eternity Hotel.
Okay, finally. Yeah, because there was like 10 chapters I just forgot about.
Yeah. Like chapters, I want to say 14 and 15 are where they finally get there.
Okay, so basically chapter 3 to 13, I just am blanking.
Pretty much. Which I find weird because Denji feeling Power's boobs is in that segment.
Oh, okay. Well, when does that happen?
That's chapter 12, I want to say.
Okay,
it's led into from chapter 11, but it happens in chapter 12.
Okay, so yeah, about chapters 3 through 10, maybe chapters 3 through 11, I blank on.
Dang. Yeah, man. That's a lot to just forget.
Well, there's a lot that happens in Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, I know, right? Chainsaw Man really does kind of have a and then this happens sort of feel to it sometimes. Like that leech devil popping up right after the bat devil dies kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah, Chainsaw Man, it feels like it's figuring out what it is. Thematically speaking.
Mm.
So I dig that. Because then that means I'll have something to, think about other than Chainsaw Man cool. Chainsaw Man look cool.
He look pretty.
Hey, look pretty. Power is cute, but she's a horrible little shit person. Let's like. That's one of the things that frustrates me like the most in manga and anime is that like a lot of the times it's like, yeah, literally the cutest character in the series, horrible little garbage person.
Yeah.
Because Power, she's just a monstrous like gremlin woman, and it's like I don't flush the toilet, I don't bathe, I don't wipe, I don't. It's like, you're too cute to be that gross. Why are you like that? And I get it. It's because she's a fiend, She's supposed to be horrible. But, like... yeah. So, anyway. Moving on. Oh, right. Next up is Mashal, Muscles and Magic. So, I'm going to be reading 3 milestones for this one.
Okay.
So, Mashal, Muscles and Magic, chapters 1 through 5. This series has a good start. That's it. No, I'm kidding. The world has a decent enough foundation and relies heavily on the reader's existing familiarity with magic school stories to skip over what would otherwise be tedious world building. Its sense of humor and art style both seem heavily influenced by the works of One, as well as plenty of Western influences like Harry Potter. For anyone curious, One is the creator of One Punch Man.
Yeah.
It also relies on the same powerless hero trope that My Hero Academia and Black Clover utilize, but this one really sticks to its guns on that front, where MHA and Black Clover give in and let their heroes have functional superpowers. MASH basically has super strength, speed, and durability anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how a shonen action comedy progresses when its protagonist exists outside of the established power system. Because yeah, he basically has a set of superpowers from a different manga altogether.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting read. See, like, yeah, how does super athletic man survive in Harry Potter when everybody else is a Harry Potter character? Turns out he punches them. So anyway, Mashal, Magic and Muscles, chapters 6 to 10. This stretch introduces the first rules for the magic system, but keeps things pretty loose for the sake of focusing on the comedic subversion of how magic is typically expected to function. An interesting supporting cast has gathered around MASH in these chapters, but none of them have had much time to shine outside of their introductory chapters other than Finn and Lance. Overall, this series is keeping a steady pace and keeps its engine running smoothly. So yeah, Finn and Lance are just a pair of friends that MASH has made within the first 10 chapters. And there's also a girl whose name I can't remember, and a guy whose name I can't remember. So like 4 friends gather around him in these chapters. Yeah. And I can only remember the names of 2 of them. But they're the most interesting 2, so it explains why. And they're also the 2 that like hang around in the most consistently. Finn and Lance. Lance and Finn. Those guys. Anyway. All right, third milestone. Mashal. Muscles and Magic, or Magic and Muscles. I can't remember which direction that goes in. Chapters 11 to 15. Just as this series hits a steady rhythm of short arcs, roughly 2 to 3 chapters in length, introducing new friends and new bullies in equal measure, Chapter 15 leaves off on a cliffhanger, hinting at the beginnings of a larger combat-oriented arc centered around the usual type of villain group you see in other shonen manga. Mashal continues subverting the shonen action genre in clever, though not altogether original ways. It clearly draws a great deal of inspiration from One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100, but it has enough of a unique personality and attitude all its own to stand out from its contemporaries. These chapters also have the single greatest punch illustration I've seen in my life. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. The fight scenes in this series are always top-notch, even for as brief as they are. Mashal has had a solid opening run, and I look forward to seeing what it's capable of once it gets rolling in the next stretch of chapters. I will send you the page I'm talking about when I say the greatest punch illustration I've seen in my life. It is genuinely the single best punch I have ever seen illustrated in my entire life. Dang. That might be hyping it up too much, but I genuinely feel that way about it. It's a single page splash.
Okay.
And it really, really sells the impact. But yeah, all right. So I know this was a longer one of these, everybody, but here's the finale, the last thing on the notes. And I'm gonna be honest, this one it's not the most exciting conclusion. But here we go. Kaiju number 8, chapters 11 to 15. With the series now in full swing, it has begun an arc that I feel will properly demonstrate the scale of the stakes involved in the story. Kaiju number 8 lacked a proper antagonist until now, and I'm looking forward to seeing the conflict fleshed out through the newly introduced villain who has just begun his first major strike. Aside from the story, the art is holding steady in terms of quality. Not much else to report.
Okay.
Yeah, Kaiju number 8 is it's staying good. Yeah. And it has introduced an actual villain now. But other than that, that's That's it.
Okay.
Dog. Homie.
So before closing out, quick top 3. Now that you're finished with the first 15 chapters of each.
Quick top 3. I would say this time around, honestly, this time around, a lot of the newer stuff I think kind of takes it for this stretch of chapters. I'm going to say, again, in no particular order, probably Black Clover, Mashal, and Chainsaw Man.
Oh, nice.
And Chainsaw Man mostly because I feel like it's finally it's finally like figuring out what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's meandering from thing to thing anymore.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, that is pretty much the episode, everyone. You heard our takes on dipping sauces. You heard our pitch. Well, you heard our talking about Dragon Ball Z and Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, our memorial, I guess.
Yeah. Then Teo's manga study, which he is continuing, which is a lot. I didn't realize till I had texted Teo like a week or two ago. I was like, oh, snap. I just realized, I don't know why it took me this time. I just realized each time you're reading 100 chapters.
Yeah. Well, this time, let's see here, between
this was
swapping Mashal in and cycling JoJo out, this one was
110.
115.
Oh, wow.
115 chapters this time around.
Oh, yeah. Dang. Wow. But
right?
Yeah,
no, wait.
I think 110.
110. No, because it was 15 chapters of a new series altogether, plus all 100 of the last.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had read the 5 chapters of JoJo. That's right. Yeah. So
it was 115 chapters this time.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dang.
Yeah. So right now, everybody, it might be a little slower going, getting through milestone 4, for a few weeks, because for my current term of college, I am taking a contemporary fiction class, which means that I have assigned reading that consists of contemporary fiction novels. So I am currently reading The Hunger Games. I know for certain I have to get through at least the first 15 chapters by Thursday, but it's an extremely brisk read though. Plus it's a really good book, so it goes by fast. And like the chapters are crazy short too, so
oh yeah.
So 15's not going to feel like much by the time I get there, and it's roughly halfway through the book. It's a short book. I'm probably going to finish it regardless of how many chapters I'm required to read, but after this though, I also have to read at least some of Gone Girl and The Road. So I've got some assigned reading that will, as far as my entertainment reading goes, that's what I'll have to be doing. That's what I got to spend my free time doing instead of reading manga, because that's for school. Yeah. So, but yeah, fortunately, at least one really good book I know for certain was assigned to me, because this is my first time reading The Hunger Games, and it's actually really pulling me in.
That's good.
Like, I feel like a part of why I never read The Hunger Games back when it was newish was because, like, when I was younger, like, YA novels never really grabbed me. Like the only YA series that ever really held my interest was Percy Jackson, and I feel like that was Greek mythology doing most of the work there. Right. Because I've always been a huge mythology nerd. But but like, I tried Harry Potter when I was a kid and I couldn't get into it, and I tried Twilight and I couldn't get into it. And what else? I feel like there was a third one. But yeah, no, like I just, I couldn't really get into like YA novel series. So I just kind of wrote the Hunger Games off as just another one at the time.
Yeah.
Plus, the Hunger Games movies were a little dull, so it didn't seem like it would be that interesting of a read. But the thing is, like, reading it now, it gives you so much more detail about the world, and like you feel like you understand so much more about how it all functions, and it's all narrated in first person perspective, all from Katniss's perspective. So like if you just watch the movie, you like the way that Jennifer Lawrence plays Katniss and the way she was, probably directed to play her is like really flat.
Yeah.
And like, emotionless. And unfortunately that doesn't give you a whole lot in terms of a readable character when in film.
Right.
So when you read the book, though, you are always in her head because she's the one narrating it. So, like, she actually has a personality. Like, Katniss is not, a bland, generic, strong female protagonist registered trademark. She's, like, there's actually, like, a character in there. There's a person inside that character.
Yeah.
You just don't get it through the movie. You have to read the book to get that.
Okay.
So it's a good book. And again, it fleshes Katniss out as a character. And like movie adaptations, everybody always says like, "Oh, the book was better." Whatever. I can watch the Harry Potter movies. The books bore me. But yeah, for the Hunger Games though, I'm thinking like, nah, I really agree. Like this book so far, better than the movie. It's because the characters are like, the characters are characters. They're interesting. They're interesting to read about. And the world is interesting. The world is so much more interesting in the book because you don't get hardly any details about anything in those movies.
Right.
But in the book, it's like there's so much to that world. So yeah, it's just the Hunger Games, good book. For anybody out there who's been on the fence about the Hunger Games for the past decade, my recommendation, read it instead of watching it.
Nice.
Except for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Because I don't think that one's based on any of the books. I don't think a prequel book came out. I think that was just an original movie prequel. And also, it's the best Hunger Games movie. Because like I saw like 3. What's that?
I said that's what a lot of people have said.
Yeah, it's because it's not boring. It's a genuinely interesting movie. And sure, it's long, but it's finished. And like honestly, watching that movie feels like reading an entire book in one go.
Right.
But yeah, and also what was I gonna say? Oh, I feel like I had something else to say. Yes, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Right. I saw 3 movies in the theater last year, 2 of which were Marvel movies. But between those 3, Songbirds and Snakes is probably my second favorite.
Nice.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like the only reason Guardians 3 beats it out, in my opinion, is because I already had like a decade-long relationship with the characters that movie was about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like that one had a lot more going into it. But yeah, so watch The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and read The Hunger Games. I can't speak to the quality of either of the sequel books, but I know the first one's really good.
Hear anything in my background?
Yeah, some.
Okay. What I'll do, I feel like I'm screaming over it. But we will end the episode now.
Oh, okay.
It is something that's going on outside.
There's something happening outside?
Yeah.
I thought that was you shuffling around like your desk or something.
No, That is something outside. So,
Okay.
listener, thank you for listening. Go watch Hunger Games. Read the books. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.